And welcome back to Coffee with the Wolves, presented by JJC Athletics. As always, I'm your host, Damian Dennis, and I'm here today to talk a little bit about cheerleading. Coach Tiffany, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It's nice to be back.
First time in a year.
Well, yeah. It's like an
Um,
annual thing now.
yeah, but I mean, that's a great thing because the first time we had you on, you finished second place
Yep.
at a national event.
Yep.
Second time you come back, you finished second place at a national event.
I know. And, second place in the nation is not too shabby. We're hoping we have one more national event for this season, which will be returning to Daytona. Hoping to kind of break the routine and come back with a championship win. But it was so exciting in Salt Lake City for this event. Very proud of it.
So it was the inaugural NJCAA Competitive Cheer Invitational.
Yeah.
The Wolves went. You won the first ever. I don't know. Do you call it a match, a bout, whatever? But
Right. So yeah, everything's split up into matches. It's run pretty different than traditional cheer comps. A series of compulsory skills where you go head to head against another team. First tumbling, then another period of building skills, and then you do some routines at the end. So yeah, the very first all-girl match that was ever done. We did walk away with that win, which was pretty exciting, and then proceeded to compete in 3 more matches, keep ourselves in contention for the championship, and wind up runners up.
and the way it worked, the invitational is kind of a double elimination thing, right?
Yes.
So you beat, was it Southern Idaho?
Yeah.
Then you face Blinn,
Right.
who beat
Who
the
beat
Wolves.
us? Yes.
Then you face Southern Idaho again for a
Right.
chance to compete against Blinn again.
Right. Right. It was a little, with only 3 all-girl teams. That's where it was kind of just continually going against the same 2 teams. And we'll see moving forward if we get a few more entries into that all-girl category. But I think for this inaugural year, the kind of first determining factor was, could you as a team be prepared and have the skills to go in the first place? So that was kind of elimination round 1, if you will. So we got ourselves prepared and know that we could at least compete at the event, and then just kind of left it all out there when we went up against the other teams.
Now, you kind of touched on it a little bit already, but for someone like me and other people probably watching, not familiar with the sport, the competitive side of cheerleading, so competitive cheer, what do these competitions look like? I have some vague idea. It's different, but I have a vague idea because I covered SEC gymnastics.
Okay.
So I kind of have
Sure.
an idea of what it's kind of like, but I know our AD Greg was like, I didn't know what was going on until near the end. So
True. And to be fair, it was new to all of us, like even for me as a coach and my athletes. This idea of head-to-head competition, they do run an NCAA event, very similar, that's called Stunt the Sport. And it's a list of predetermined skills. I believe it was 9 heats of tumbling skills, some standing, some running. And then you had the option, when we got into building skills, another approximately 9 heats where they sent out videos of those stunts and pyramid type skills. You had to learn them and train them. Then you also were able to come up with your own creative type of stunt and pyramid and basket toss. And they look at one team do it, they look at another team do it, and whoever executes it the best walks away with the win in that heat. And the other team, it was a 10-9 differential. So if you won, you got 10 points. If you didn't, you got 9 points, and you could tie. So there were a couple instances where we tied and took 10 and 10.
yeah. What was the experience like? And first NJCAA competition ever. And I know you took a bus all the way to Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
What was let's start there. What was the travel like, both to and from? That had to have been exhausting in and of itself.
Sure. It was. That's the longest road trip I've ever taken. I did a lot of traveling in my competitive career, but I think prior to that, we kept it at right around 12 hours or so in a car or a bus. For me personally, maybe I had lower expectations, so the drive out didn't feel too bad. Drive back, we ran into some weather in the mountains, so highways were closed. Got a little bit of extra team bonding in, which was fun, but also after just a long, rigorous competition, I think everyone was just really looking forward to come home. So I'm happy to have had the experience. I don't know if the college will be able to convince me to take another long bus ride like that again. I'll be pushing hard for a flight. So, but I mean, it's all part of the journey, right? So having those stories, having those moments with the team, it's certainly nothing that I regret having happened.
You know, it's funny, a little bit of a tangent off topic, but the travel stuff. As someone who drove 16 hours one way to Houston last year, 2 years ago drove from, this area to the Florida Keys.
Oh,
Someone
yeah.
who's made the drive from Las Vegas to Traverse City, Michigan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know how you feel.
Yeah.
Did you guys do it like in a straight shot, or did you stop anywhere?
No, we had two drivers, so it was a straight shot. And part of that too is just, we're all the team, us coaches. We've got our stuff outside of this too. So the thought of, breaking it into 2 full days on either end for travel, no one wants to be missing that much school. So we tried to compact it as much as possible. Yeah.
I heard Wi-Fi was spotty on the bus too.
Wi-Fi was a little spotty. We did have our hotspot, but it didn't seem to necessarily, I don't know if it wasn't reaching the back of the bus or just with all of us on it. So, yeah, it was definitely an experience.
It was funny you mentioned the weather, because I think when I made the drive from Vegas, the shorter route was to go through Colorado,
Right.
but it was winter, so I had to go through Arizona and New Mexico and Texas, and then
Yeah.
loop up.
Yeah, we had some parents that came to support us that had also driven, and they took a detour around the weather, but it wound up taking them about 5 hours, I think, out of the way. So it all worked out the same. So it's a matter of, well, do you feel better that you're at least still moving, or having that little bit of a break to stretch your legs?
It's kind of how I am. I'd rather get off and keep moving
Yeah.
than be like stuck in traffic. So.
Yeah, yeah.
But the experience, so for your team, I know we're going to be speaking with one of your cheerleaders
Yeah.
coming up, but how did they respond just kind of to the environment and the opportunity?
In my opinion, they thrived. I mean, it was an unknown for all of us, and it's unknown because this is our first test of the season. It's a little bit different than what I'm used to in coaching high school, what they're used to in competing high school, where you have probably 6 events throughout your season until you get to your big one. We have, 2 big ones, and that's all we get. And so you don't quite know. I know how they perform week in and week out. I know how they perform in halftime, and they've been doing great. So, of course, I have high expectations. I think they had high expectations of each other. But we talked about it while we were there. Every single time they stepped on that mat, they were better than the time before. We were adding skills throughout the events even, and it's just really a testament, 1, to their commitment, and then 2, to their, kind of champion mindset that they had and their commitment to that. So it was great just to be a part of it.
When's the next event? It's the one in Daytona again. Is
Yeah.
that in March again, April?
That's April the 9th through the 14th.
Okay. What are you doing to kind of prepare for that? I know you mentioned changing some of the parts of the routine and whatnot.
Sure.
Anything specific you could share?
Sure. So this one, we have 1 2-minute, 15-second routine that we'll be training. And it's going to have, kind of your more traditional cheer feel to it, where you put all of the stunts and pyramid and tumbling skills into that 2 minutes, 15 seconds. It has a little bit more flash than the routines that we did for NJCAA. So there's a little bit, there's actually points that are given for this idea of having transitions and intrigue throughout the routine. So our preparation, we've had the routine choreographed. We're going to spend some time making sure that we remember the choreography, small adjustments for personnel, and then just those skills are different than the skills that we had to do for Salt Lake City. The stunting skills specifically are not quite as rigorous as what we had to do for Salt Lake. So that's a little bit of a benefit to the team. They've kind of overtrained at this point, so they can just really focus on the execution.
Yeah. And I guess last question, back to the travel. Are you driving to Daytona?
We will be flying to Daytona. Yes, it's definitely a flight situation.
Did you drive last year or fly?
No, we did fly last year too.
Yeah. Flying easier.
Yes, it's easier. Although, I mean, there can be issues with that too. We did have, I think, a delay headed out of O'Hare last year. So the note for this year's travel plans is make sure that we're arriving the day before we would want to start practicing, just
Yeah.
so that any delays don't prevent us from that.
Well, Tiff, I appreciate you joining the show again.
Of
And
course.
if you have another big event, we'll get you on either before or after that in
Let's
April.
go 2 in one season. I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah. Yeah, thanks
All
for
right.
joining me.
Thank you so much.
Next up here on Coffee with the Wolves, I'm joined by sophomore cheerleader Maryssa. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
I don't think last year when I had your coach on, I had a cheerleader come with her. I think we talked for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So, this is the first having, a member of the Joliet junior college cheer team on the show. So
I'm honored to be the first.
now I'm starting to be blinded by the sun in this room. We were just talking about opening the blind. It's reflecting off the table now. But anyway, we're here to talk about the tournament you guys just participated in out in Salt Lake City, the inaugural NJCAA Competitive Cheer Invitational. The Wolves finished second place, national runner-ups. Just immediate thoughts, just how are you feeling after that finish?
I'm actually really proud of our team and being able to overcome everything that we've overcome and pushing to that second place. I really feel like we deserved it and we work for it hard. And I'm now excited for Daytona and I'm ready to go out there and get that win.
Since you participated in the Daytona competition last year, and you've got it coming up again, but you've competed in these two separate, competitions. Can you compare and contrast them for me? Like, what was the difference between the two?
There's a really big difference. The one we just went to in Salt Lake, it was different categories, I think you would say. You have like tumbling, and you do each separate tumbling. So you would do like your layouts or your back handsprings or your tucks, and in Daytona, you get one routine, you get one shot, and that's your one time that you can shine. Mm-hmm. But in Salt Lake, there's different categories where I'd say you could make up different points. So if something didn't go good in one round, you have another time to make it up. In Daytona, you have one shot to put it all out on the floor.
Yeah. Did that kind of give you a sense of ease going into the competition, knowing like, okay, I don't have to be perfect, but like you have a chance to make it up if you stumble somewhere?
Honestly, not really. I feel like I always I'm really hard on myself all the time. So I always want to put it 100% on the floor. It doesn't matter if I can make up that point. I want that point either way.
Yeah. What was the experience like? You were in the room, but just spoke with your coach about, the travel and just kind of being in Salt Lake City and at this event, just what was it like for you, both as a competitor and, just a person, being able to travel that far?
I honestly liked the travel. Isn't really ideal. Would love to fly, but it was honestly a really good team bonding experience, getting to know like some of the girls that I'm not as close with on the team, like on a different level. And like it was really nice. Like we'd have like team meetings and we got to know like certain things about girls on the team that we didn't know before, and just bringing back like the passion of cheerleading for a lot of them. And I can say the same, that being on this team has really brought like my passion for cheerleading back. And just being able to bond with the team was honestly one of my favorite parts of the trip.
Yeah. How did you guys bond? What's the chemistry like, I guess, outside, like before that trip, I guess? How did the team build chemistry, especially when you're not really participating in competitions, you're not traveling, you're pretty much just at practices and here, men's basketball games. But then you have that chance to go out and build upon the chemistry, I guess. How did it build, I guess, on that trip?
Being together 24/7, really. Like
you learn a lot about people.
You do, and then you have knocks on your rooms, your hotel room door, and just like being a girl, really. Just bonding with someone that you don't usually like see outside of cheer or like every single day. Like it's nice to be around your friends all the time.
Now, kind of on that topic of the, you're not participating, in a weekly or, even monthly competition as a cheerleader here at JJC. Kind of have those two big events, as your coach said. How difficult does it, what's the difficulty level when it comes to preparing for those events? Because unlike basketball, we're recording this on Thursday.
Yeah.
There's basketball games tonight. There's two on Saturday. They have a handful of games. You guys have these two events and that's it. How do you prepare both mentally and physically for these events?
Honestly, it's practice. Like you go to practice, that's what you get. And these basketball games, they're not just basketball games to us. They're times for us to practice and us to step outside our range of like not being able to perform in front of anyone, and we're performing in front of everyone at the basketball games as well.
Yeah. And I guess kind of just to build upon, your experiences on the trip, the long drives. I think you had some issues coming home. Was it weather issues?
Yeah.
Just how'd you manage, such a long trip, just as a person? Obviously, you hang
Yeah.
out with the other team.
I would sleep.
A good time
Sleep.
for it.
It was perfect. I would sleep or do my homework.
Yeah.
That's
Well, what are you looking forward to with Daytona coming up? I know it's probably about 2 months away or so, but that's the next big event, and that's what the focus is right
yeah.
now.
I'm excited to go out there and give it my all and win. That's probably one of the top things I've always wanted to win in my life. I've been cheering since I was 8, and I've been following along with cheer, and I've always wanted to win this. So my drive is through the roof for this.
Now, I'm glad you mentioned when you started cheer because I was usually I do this earlier, but when I have first-time student athletes on the show, I like to talk about like why JJC, how'd you get into your sport, that sort of stuff. So I'll do it now and ask you, how did you get into cheerleading at 8 years old? How long have you been doing it? And I guess, did you take any time off is kind of what that means. And then why'd you come to JJC?
Well, like I said, I started when I was about 8. I was in gymnastics at first. Really wasn't my thing. And then one of my mom's friends had introduced me to like cheerleading, and I started at a really small like recreational place, and then I joined All Star, and then I was in All Star for a couple of years, and then I did high school cheer at Joliet West, and I was on the JV team for my freshman year, and then ended up doing varsity, and I absolutely loved it. We went to state, and then I took a couple years off because I just kind of started to lose the passion for certain issues that was going on the team, and then I came back to JJC, and I met all these friends, and I have wonderful coaches, and I have my passion back, and now I'm just ready to win.
Yeah. What ultimately led you to JJC? Was it in terms of the cheerleading anyway? Like, how did your coach kind of approach you about joining the team?
I actually had no idea that JJC had a cheer team, and then I had found out about it, and I reached out to Tiffany, and she welcomed me with open arms and was like, yes, like come up and try out. And I went, and it was super scary because I came in the middle of a season, and the team was already built, and they already had their choreography, and so that was even more intimidating. But I tried out, and I made the team, and they opened me with open arms, and I was brought onto the team, and I love that they did that.
Cool. I guess last question in terms of JJC stuff. Have you chosen a major, and what are kind of your plans for the future post JJC?
I intend to transfer to UIC in the fall. My major is criminal justice forensic science.
All right, that sounds like something that I could never do. Well, Maryssa, I appreciate you taking the time to come on Coffee with the Wolves. Good luck in Daytona in a couple months. And
Thank you.
yeah, thanks. Oh, and I should say, we'll see you next week.